and 7 says, God has not given us the spirit of fear, but power, love, and a sound mind. Whatever it is that the enemy has stirred you into being afraid of, I'm telling you today, you have got to get delivered from that area of fear. More millennials and Gen Z have commitment phobia. Hear this. And they have commitment phobia over their fear of COVID-19 itself. According to Time magazine, 25% of millennials, I need you to write this down. Parents, clutch your pearls. Seniors, you are not going to believe it. 25% of millennials have pledged to never get married. 25% of millennials said they have no interest in ever getting married in their life. According to U.S. News and World Report, they have published this is the lowest wedding rate in the nation's history. During the Great Depression, 12% of the nation's youth were getting married. That was in our poorest state, 1929. During World War II, 16% of young people, even while they were headed off to war, were getting married. I need you to hear this. Now, only 6% of young people under 32 are looking for engagement rings. And in spite of commitment fear, and in light of that commitment fear, God still wants commitment. And he's not swayed by our fears. As a matter of fact, I need you to know this, that God is drawn to your fear. There was a guy by the name of Gideon who in the middle of a battle was hiding in a wine press, and God called him a warrior. He didn't care that he was afraid of fighting and afraid of dying. He was still called to the battle. Maybe you forgot Jonah didn't want to go to Nineveh, but God turned his travel plans around. Televangelist Joyce Myers a few years ago wrote a book called Do It Afraid, Embracing Courage in the Face of Fear. And I don't know where you are sitting in that couch, sitting in your bed. I don't know whether you're preparing breakfast, but the word of God for you is to do it afraid. I know you're scared, but you still got to do it. I know it makes your heartbeat accelerate, but you still got to do it. I know you don't know whether the outcome is assured, but you still got to do it. I know it looks risky, but you still got to do it. I know your friends are telling you it's not a good time, but you still got to do it. I need somebody to declare out loud, I'm going to do it afraid. Come on, say it out loud. I'm going to do it afraid. He looked out on that water and said, Master, if that's you, let me come to where you are. And the Lord said, come. I am telling you, I know you're afraid, but you still got to do it because your faith has got to be stronger than your fear. How are you afraid to commit? I'm getting ready to ring the ADT alarm, because you need to be able to trace whether or not you are connected to somebody who has a commitment phobia. And I'm getting ready to show how you can detect them. Somebody who is afraid of commitment will always give it away. Hear this, they'll give it away in their language. They overuse some words and they're reluctant to say others. For example, somebody who has commitment phobia, it's hard for them to say the word love. They don't know how to say it. Somebody who has commitment phobia never wants defined terms. So we just kicking it. We just hanging out. We just seeing what it is. Somebody with commitment phobia never wants to play a role. They don't want to be accountable. They don't want to be answerable. And so they get offended just at the slightest question. Where you going? When you coming back? What you do today? Where were you? It's commitment fears. They don't know how to say love, and they don't know how to define roles. And look at the language of God. Greater love has no man than this, than a man will lay down his life for his friend. Look at the language of Yahweh. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. Look at how God talks, because he ain't afraid of commitment. You shall have no other God before me. He's clear about his role. I am the way, I'm the truth, I am the light, I am the doorway. Look at the language of God. I came that you might have life and have it more abundantly. Don't waste your time with people who don't want to play their role. Don't waste your time with people who don't know how to express and articulate what they feel about you. You are too grown, too anointed, too focused, too destined to be with somebody who doesn't want definition. Commitment phobia becomes evident. Hear this. You ain't gonna believe it. Somebody write it down. Somebody needs to text your best friend. They need to hear this. Somebody with commitment phobia, it is hard for them to make plans. You ask him about next weekend, the answer is possibly. Ask him about next month, we'll see, I got a check. That's the language of somebody who doesn't know how to commit, is they don't know how to make plans. Listen to what God thinks about you. For I know the plans that I have for you. That ain't just it. I got plans to prosper you. I got plans that you'll never be in harm's way. I got plans that you're going to have a hope. Here's the catch of somebody who ain't afraid of commitment. I got plans for our future. And I need somebody who won't just love me in the present, but will you get excited about where you see me in the future? I need somebody with like-minded faith that knows I'm not praising God for 21. This year is a bust. I'm praising God for 22 because I know God has future plans. Being non-committal is so pervasive to the fabric of our culture that in your parents' generation you were either single or you were married. You haven't even watched the slight nuance that has happened in culture, that in this hour you are either single, married, here it is, or it's complicated. That's a real option of a status. It's complicated. Why? Because we are living in an hour where people want convenience and hate sacrifice. And in spite of the language and the ethos of the culture, God still has the nerve to demand all of you. And let me tell you how God is built. God in ghetto interpretation is saying in no uncertain terms, don't have me out here looking crazy. Yeah, don't embarrass me. If you gonna say we together, then I got to be your only God. If you gonna say we under covenant, how are you talking to me, but you telling everybody else about your problems and your issue? If I'm your God, seek ye first my kingdom, and all other things will be added. You don't know how to have a committed relationship because of what it is you have been bombarded with is anti-covenant. You can't get on social media without seeing a post that says, I'm not catching feelings, I'm catching flights. We are so enamored that in about 45 days, people are going to start posting pictures in matching pajamas. When they never tell the story of how long that Negro made them sleepless. We keep posting gifts, but we never require presents. And too many of us have a bad back because we wear a built-in parachute with our hands on the ripcord, ready to jump out and leave at the first sign of trouble. The dysfunction is so normal that when somebody comes into your life with no games, with their cards on the table, prepared to be transparent, your knee-jerk reaction is to back up in the panic because you are so used to the artificial that when somebody really comes, then you got to second guess, is there a motive? Is there a string attached? Or is this really going to last? I speak over 5 people live. The rest of y'all ain't ready. I pray that God escorts somebody in your life who does not work for Hansbro. They have no games. They come fully invested saying, I see your worth. I see your value. Here's your shout. I know your issues. I know your past. I know your baggage, but I still love who you are. And if you haven't found that yet, you ain't found God yet. But if there's anybody that knows he looks beyond all of my faults and he still sees my needs. Look at God. Look at God being straight up with you about what he wants and what he expects. And here you are with your silly self. You don't even know how to deal with it. You don't know how to accept it. He said, here's all I want. I want to be the only God you worship. He said, I am so jealous that I don't want you bowing down to no statues. I don't want you bowing down to no Negro's car. I don't want you bowing down for no bag. I don't want you bowing down for no scrimp dinner. I don't want you bowing down for some little piece of jewelry. I don't want you bowing down for a good morning text message. I don't want you bowing down for some superficial date. I've got to be your only God. And I can tell some of you all don't serve him. You serve the Falcons. You serve the Falcons because you'll go to a stadium when it's 50 degrees outside and it's 40,000 people in the stadium, but you said you scared to come to church. I know God ain't your God because you'll go to Linux where they'll steal your car and snatch your purse, but you'll go there anyway. I know God ain't your God because you'll sit in the beauty salon with no mask on, with folk that ain't even vaccinated. And God is saying, if you love me, you ought to bless me. Some of y'all just got a crush on God. But if you're committed to him, would you lift up your voice? Would you cry out unto God? God, it's only you that I worship. It's only you that I adore. It's only you that I am committed to. I feel like I have given you a bad set of goods. I've sold you a bad set of goods because I think I've given you a skewed picture. I've given you a skewed picture talking about the mindset, the mind frame, the mentality, and the psychosis of a younger generation who is against commitment, who's against marriage, and don't want to stay together. I don't want you to think that I'm speaking in universal tones, that this these statements and that indictment is for everybody. All young people are not anti-commitment. All young people are not anti-stand together. All young people do not have a phobia about being connected. I don't know about the young people in your house. I don't know the ones you raised, but I found 3 who wanted to testify that they are not afraid of commitment, not afraid of covenant, not afraid to stick with somebody who sticks with them. I'm not sure whether you met them. Their plane just landed. Their names are Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And they were victims of human trafficking. Where they live is not where they are from. But they were dragged from where it is that they lived. And they were supposed to be under the supervision of their mentor. But by the time I get to Daniel chapter 3, the adult who is supposed to be watching over them is nowhere to be found. Everybody else in the area is bowing down to a fake gold god. But I found 3 young people who said, I cannot bow down. I don't care what everybody else is doing. I made a covenant to God that he would be my only God. And if I'm going to worship, that's who I'm going to worship. I can tell some of y'all are slow, and I wish you had the relationship of these 3 teenagers, but you ain't built like that. These 3 teenagers, they were born over 4,000 years ago, but somehow or another, they got an advanced copy of Shaka Khan's song, Through the Fire, To the Limit, To the Wall. For a chance to be with you, I surely risk it all. Y'all ain't saying nothing to me. For a chance to be with you, I leave it all the way, right down to the fire. Some of y'all only praise him when times are good. But if there's anybody in this pandemic that ever had to worship him in the fire, would you worship him with your heart broken? Would you worship him after the divorce? Would you worship him after they lied to you? Would you worship him after they took your kindness as a weakness? Would you worship him? And because they stuck to their covenant, there's a threat on their life. I'm going to say this to somebody. You cannot threaten somebody who has a promise over them. Did you hear what I just said? You cannot threaten somebody who's got a promise over their life. I dare you to tell me I ain't never gonna find nobody. I dare you to tell me you the best I can ever have. I dare you to tell me this is as good as it gets. I dare you to tell me that I should just shut up and deal with it. I dare you to tell me that money is the only solution. Is there anybody here that is thankful unto God that people have threatened you, but it never outweighed the promise of God that was over your life? And they wouldn't bow down. That is their cardinal, signal, and singular offense. Holding their covenant. That's what they did to upset the enemy. Hold their covenant. That's what they did that made them an example. Stick by their covenant. And Nebuchadnezzar said, I'm going to give you another chance to walk away from what you committed to. And if you do not do it, I'm going to throw you into the fire. Shadrach looked at Meshach, and Meshach looked at Abednego and said, I know it's going to get hot, but we made a covenant, so we got to stand by it. They say, our God is able to deliver us from this. And even if he don't deliver us, he's still able to do it. I need somebody that's got an unwavering commitment, that if I make a commitment, I may lose my job, but I'm going to hold to my commitment. A bill will show up, but I'm still going to hold to my commitment. They throw him in the fire. When they threw him in the fire, what Nebuchadnezzar didn't know is that not only did they have a commitment to not bow down, they committed what many believers don't know how to do. They committed to a fast, to exercise discipline. Oh my God. I need you to see what happened in the previous chapter. Is that in their fast, they refused to drink wine. God help me. I think I'm losing you. They refused to drink wine. But not only did they refuse to drink wine, hear this, ladies and gentlemen, they refused to eat meat. They went on what we now categorically know as the Daniel fast. And the Bible says in Daniel that after being committed to the fast, their skin looked better. Their mind was sharper. Their body was in better shape. Here it is, because they didn't even understand the power of their commitment. I need you to understand what happens when you don't hold fast to your commitment. Had Daniel broken his fast and ate the meat, I'm coming home. Had Daniel broken the fast and ate the meat, when they threw him in the lion's den, God help me, the lions would have been able to smell him. God help me, because he would have smelled like what they are attracted to. But because they were on a fast, the lions couldn't smell the meat. Come here, I gotta make you shout in your living room. For days they didn't drink wine, and they didn't even understand their covenant is what preserved them in the fire. Why are you saying that, Pastor? Because wine is flammable, and had they had wine on them, they would have caught on fire. But because there was no wine in their system, God said, because you made a covenant to me, I'm getting ready to make a covenant unto you. And the Bible said they came out of the fire, but they didn't smell like smoke. Some of y'all, I came to make an announcement. Whatever you are stuck in, you getting ready to come out of it. Whatever you thought you were going to die in, God is going to deliver you from. The enemy got no idea. It's the covenant that saved me. It is my relationship with God that has brought me through. You want to know why I made it? It's not because I'm so holy. It's because God is so good. And is there anybody here that knows I'm coming out of this? I should have died. I should have lost my mind. I should have gave up on love. I should have wiped away the tears. But I'm coming out of it. When you commit to God, he'll commit to you. I got to give you the bad news, and then I'm leaving. I want you to lift up that hand. I got to tell you this, and then I got to go. I feel bad for the people who didn't commit to you. I want to say it another way. I feel bad for the people who didn't think you were worth committing to. Because the ones who threw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fire were the ones who got consumed by the flames. I speak over your life. I need you to lift up that hand. A prayer that I have never pronounced in church, never spoken aloud in a microphone in a worship encounter. I pray God sends you somebody who sees that you are worth forsaking all others for. Oh my God. I pray that God will bring somebody into your life who will not think it is an inconvenience to be held accountable. I pray over your life that God will only assign people into your space who can see you in your future, even when they have all the evidence from your past. I declare and decree that this is not the hour for you to share. This is not the hour for you to share. I'm waiting for you to wake up. You better sit up in that bed. This is not the hour for you to just accept midnight phone calls. This is not the time for you to negotiate with the wholeness of your heart, but forsaking all others. Lord, in the name of Jesus, I pray that you will forgive us for being polygamous in our faith, for worshiping you and worshiping our status, worshiping our figure, worshiping our image, and worshiping just the representation of company. I pray that you'll forgive us. We make a covenant today. You are our one desire. We place you above any and everything else. And those of you who are daring enough to take that covenant, would you give God the sound of thanksgiving now? Come on. Come on, come on. I can't hear you. I dare you to open up your mouth. Let me say it this way. If you ain't committed to him, don't say nothing. If God ain't first in your life, please don't worship with us. If you're not sure where he is on your priority scale, don't you clap your hand. But if you know he is my all in all, he's the center of my joy. I want your actions to speak louder than your words. I want to challenge you. I want to challenge your faith. How much have you spent on your hair this week? On your nails this week? On your car this week? On eating out this week? Whatever it is, I got to ask you, do you think the manicure is worth more than the master? Oh, God, I can't hear nobody in here. Do you think that your hair is more important than his glory? I want to challenge every person that can, every person that will. I want you to join me in an expression seed that God, you are first. You are our priority. You are who it is that we honor. I want to ask every person who will to join me in a seed of $73. I want you to give a seed of 73. The prompts are on the screen right now. Give a seed of 73. Givelify. Push to pay. Text to give. I said something years ago that I want to say to you today, only because I feel like it's appropriate. Can you imagine how wealthy you would be if you got all the money back that you paid out on somebody you are no longer with? If you got all that money back, Lord, do you know what standing you would have right now? God is saying, I'm a lover who never left you. Said, I didn't fall in love with you when you got yourself together, when you lost weight, when you had the surgery, when you got extensions. I loved you while you were still in your mother's womb. You don't even know what that kind of love is. I want you to give that seed right now. Every person who knows I'm in a good relationship. I'm in a healthy relationship. I'm in a viable relationship. I am not available to people who are allergic to commitment. Did you hear what I just said? I am not available for people who do not think I am worth committing to. Forsaking all others. Would you give that seed of 75? I want you to do it right now. I got to ask you a question. George Barner gives us the data that the average believer watches 3 different worship services on Sunday. They visit 3 different services online on Sunday. Why? Because so you go over there for the singing, come over here for the preaching, go over there for the special effects, and you ain't committed to nobody. I want you to be committed to a ministry. Come on, stop playing around. You've been hanging out with us the whole pandemic. You've been here for months. I need you to commit. You know the only reason why it is you keep coming back is there is something in this space that reaches into your soul. I need you to mature. And I need you to join. I need you to get saved. I'm telling you, for a church our size, this is the best time to join. Why? You ain't got to walk down no aisle. Ain't nobody gonna look at you. You ain't got to hug a bunch of strangers. We're not carrying you off to the back room. It's all right there in your living room. I want you to go to our website that is available right on the screen. Our counselors, our partners, our leaders are standing by. We want to welcome you into the family. We want you to commit to new birth, not just in membership, but also in discipleship. So I don't want you to just come here, but when we open up, I need you to be here, but I need you to also be involved. I need you to be engaged. I need you to participate. I need you to find the ministry. I need you to be committed to grow. I need you to be a part of our therapy on Thursdays. I need you to be in our intercessory prayer. I need you to be all encompassing, that I am in a committed relationship with the body of Christ called church. God's going to do it for you. Is that you would commit. If there's anybody in the Black Wall Street market who is committed to him, would you give God glory for it now? Give God glory. I need you to make your commitments now, whether that's for 7,000, 1,700, 770, or even 7. I need you to go to wearenewbirth.org right now and make your commitment. Please know this. I am committed to praying for you. I am committed to growing you to another dimension in God. I am committed to you not being a viewer, but you being a disciple. This is where God wants you to be. If you want to know all the opportunities that you can exercise your commitment, stay tuned so you can see what's happening at New Birth. And I can't wait to see you Tuesday morning for our Sunrise Bible Study. That's why many aren't sure how to behave. Many people don't know how to handle you. They don't know how to respond or to react when they discover that you actually don't love them for their money. We're living in a culture where currency has replaced identity. So people treat you based off of how much they think you are worth. A lot of people are about to lose their minds because they lost their job, as if they don't have confidence that God will give them another one. The American Academy of Matrimonial Lawyers have reported that divorces, oddly enough, hear this, divorces, oddly enough, pick up in periods during economic growth. The Bible says, unless two agree, how can they walk together? I was astonished to discover that there is a higher divorce rate amongst the affluent than there is amongst the destitute. A lot of couples who have a lot coming in also have a whole lot more going out. Frequently, a high-income earner is married to a non-worker. In addition, the higher income spouse can find themselves with inflated time away from the home because of travel or occupational demands. By an almost 2-to-1 margin, the lawyers who were polled saw a decline in divorces during economic downturns, which means that when things got tight, marital bonds got deeper. When things were going well, it was easier for people to leave. That underscores, therefore, why in the marital vows it says richer before it says poorer. Because your greater temptation is how you will act when you have money. It's actually harder to stick in there when you are richer. Al Green said, let's stay together, whether good or bad, happy or sad. But you'll notice that Reverend Al never said richer or poorer. I got to ask you a critical question today. Whether you're in the lawn, whether you're on a folding chair, whether you're watching from your home, I got to ask you, how does your economics inform your discipleship? Have you ever thought about why is it there are more churches in the projects than in the suburbs? Psalm 34:1 says, I will bless the Lord at all times. But seriously though, which times do you bless him more? When do you pray more? At what point do you worship more fervently? You asked him to make you richer, but can he trust you when you are poorer? So sometimes to get that old thing back, God has got to make it like it was. Because God discovered in high-level observation that you were more faithful when you had less. Can God trust you with more? I hate to rain on your parade, but I got to tell you that sometimes when you lost money, it was not the devil. Sometimes when you were going through financial hardships, it was not the enemy and it was not a curse. Sometimes you went through financial trial because God needed you to pray more. God needed you to worship more. God needed you to be more faithful because he saw when you got money, you started going to brunch. When you got money, you started playing golf. When you got money, you started spending more time online shopping. So God said, I need to see, how will you trust me when you got less? The Bureau of Labor Statistics' latest survey of consumer expenditure found that the poorest fifth of American households contribute on average 4.3% of their income to charitable organizations, whereas the richest fifth gave on average just 2% of their income. We've got data that shows explicitly the broker you are, the better giver you are. It's like rolling up toothpaste. You've got to get the best you can from the bottom. The reality is most people don't know poor people intimately unless they work for them. But God put you in a place in poverty to remind you of who you used to be. He needed to see, how would you respond when you see your old self? But it becomes a whole lot more strenuous to give to people, especially when you know them. How, Pastor, do I give to my child who has no initiative? How do I give to my friend who is always in crisis? How do I give to my mate who does not know how to manage? And today I'm not telling you to give to them. What I am saying to you is stick with them the same way God stuck with you. Do you remember how God blessed you when you had no discipline? Do you remember how God supplied all your needs when your priorities were out of order? Do you remember when he showed up when you spent your income on that which was frivolous? In Matthew chapter 19, some church officials rolled up on Jesus and they asked him about divorce. And they asked the master, what are the excusable grounds for divorce that is acceptable in your sight? In verse number 9, Jesus responds, sexual immorality. And then something happens just a few verses later in that same chapter. A young man walks up on Jesus When he walks up on him, he asks, what must I do to have eternal life? And after Jesus summarizes the 10 commandments, he extends to him one last test. The last test was, go sell your possessions and give everything to the poor. I want to say this. I don't know whether you're sitting in your car, whether you're standing on the grass, but I need to say this to you, whether you're watching me sitting up in the bed. You needed to know that poverty was your last test. That God needed to see how would you serve him when your hours got cut. He needed to see what would you do when you had to live out of your savings account. He needed to see what you would respond with when you depleted your 401k. And if you can hear my voice, you ought to be shouting. Why? Because God sent me to tell you, you passed the poverty test. You ought to be giving God glory, because when you didn't have money, you didn't become mean, you didn't commit suicide, you didn't lose your mind, but you said, I will trust God even when I don't have finance. The only reason you ought to be shouting this morning is in the pandemic, you discovered that favor was better than money. That God has never left me or forsaken me. Don't worry about these folk looking at you crazy. They don't know the days you had to drive with no gas in the car. They don't know how it was when you were scared to open the mail. They don't know how your nerves were wrecked when you didn't know whether the debit card would go through. But you're able to say, through it all, I learned to trust in Jesus. I learned to trust in God. The problem is, this young man heard what Jesus said. Sell all you have and give to the poor. And the Bible then exposes his emotion, that he went away sad, and then gave us the reason why. Because he had a lot. And I'm not exactly sure why the young man went away sad. And I'm not sure whether you know why. Perhaps it was because he couldn't honor the vow being rich. And he didn't know how to trust God being poor. You didn't hear what I just said. He didn't know how to honor his vow being rich, and he didn't know how to trust God being poor. What part of it bothered him the most? Was it the selling, or was it the giving? See, Jesus is talking to a businessman, and the businessman knew that when I sell it, I'm going to get a profit for it. That it's going to be more for me in value in the sale than in the purchase. I'm not talking to everybody. I'm talking to entrepreneurs right now. God said, whatever you sell is going to be taken care of. Whatever investment you have for your idea, for your concept, for your business, for your LLC, for your book, he said you ought to take delight, because whatever you selling is going to sell. What was his problem? Was it selling it, but knowing after he sold it with a profit that he would have to give it away? And I want to argue to you this morning that a lot of you have soul ties that are not sexual. A lot of you have soul ties to things that are tangible, that you don't know how to give stuff away. You got a closet full of clothes you can't fit, and you ain't ever gonna be that size again. But you're so connected to it that you don't know how to give it away. You've got so much that it's hard for you to decide which thing to move on, because you don't know how to give it away. Hoarders will never be receivers. You just missed what I just said. Hoarders will never be receivers. And God is saying, I understand how it is that the young man was antsy. How do I give it away when I paid for it? How do I give it away to somebody who doesn't know my sacrifice? How do I give it away to somebody who does not have my work ethic? And God is telling me to give it away. If it was free, I could understand it. But how did you give it away when I paid for it? And those of you who are shaking your head, those of you who are saying you can identify, those of you who say that is a hard thesis for you to argue today, I want to say that's how God looked at you last night. How did you give your body away when I paid for it? You've been bought with a price. Don't you know your body is a temple, holy and acceptable unto God, but you keep giving it away to people who don't understand covenant. He had a problem and he walked away. Why? Because he didn't have confidence that he would get it back. What's mine is yours, and what's yours is mine until it isn't. In kindergarten, you learn that caring is sharing, but you forgot that principle by the time you got to 7th grade. You don't ever need to be on a team with somebody who is only with you when you win. You don't need anybody on your team who doesn't know how to stand with you in defeat. I better say this to somebody. Cheerleaders are only needed when the team is losing. If you don't know how to affirm and push and support who you are with, they are not supposed to be on your team. But I need you to do me a favor. For whoever you're standing beside today, would you cheer for them like you believe they're going to win? Come on. Would you cheer for them like the last quarter of the year God is going to give them the desires of their heart? Cheer for them that even though they've been tackled, they still going to have a touchdown. Cheer for them. You got to make sure they'll cheer for you when it looks like you ain't winning. That they'll cheer for you when it looks like your back is up against the wall. That they'll cheer for you even when the odds are stacked up against you. Holly, back in 2013, I went to the Miami Heat's championship game against the San Antonio Spurs. I go to the championship game and it's looking pretty bleak because the clock is winding down. Clock is winding down, and I need you to understand that the San Antonio Spurs have a 5-point lead. They got a 5-point lead against the Miami Heat. And I said, you know what? This arena is packed to capacity. Let me get out of here before it's a traffic jam in the parking lot. I got my stuff because there's only 5 minutes left in the game and they down by 5 points. I walk out of that arena. When I start walking out, I don't know, because I'm anointed for leadership, people just start walking out behind me. It's hundreds just walking out behind me. And we're walking out of the arena, and I get maybe a half block away from the arena, and I start hearing the sound of cheers. I couldn't see because there were no screens out there, but I heard a sound, and the sound indicated to me that the game had changed. That there is something about the sound of a worshiper when they are down, that even when you don't know what's happening, Even when you can't sense it, you believe something is about to shift. I don't know how you feel about it, but I believe between now and December, everything in your life is about to change. Everything in your economy is about to change. Everything in your bank account is about to change. I heard the sound of everybody cheering, and me and all those that left early ran back to the arena. Y'all ain't saying nothing to me. We ran back to the arena because we had no idea. God help me that LeBron had just hit 3 3-pointers in a row. And security told us something that messed me up that I didn't think about till I started writing this sermon. They said everybody who left cannot come back in. I want to say to 5 of y'all that don't mind shouting, whoever left you when you were broke, whoever left you when you didn't have your money, whoever left you when they didn't think you were going to survive, lock the door. They cannot come back in. I had paid the ticket, but I couldn't come back in. God help me. Because I left when I thought they were losing. I had to stay outside and watch on somebody's phone to see, even though they were down, they came back up and they passed the enemy that was ahead of them. This is a word for 50 people that don't mind shouting. God said, if you give me glory today, all your money is coming back. He said, if you praise me, everything that the cankerworm stole is coming back to you. He said, if you lift me up, it's going to be pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Would you look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, look at me. This is the brokest I'm ever going to be in my life. But beginning today, God's going to give it back to me. If you need God to give it to you, give God a shout like you know it's coming back. Every dime that is owed, every dollar that is owed, every check that is owed, God said, because you were faithful, I'm giving it to you. I got to show you this. I got to show this. I need you to lift that hand. The Bible says, whatever you give to the poor, you are loaning to the Lord. He didn't say, give it to your friends, your fraternity brothers, your sorority sisters. Say, give it to people who can't pay you back, and watch and see if I will take care of you. The pandemic has been hellified on your money. But how many of you believe something is getting ready to change? We're not asking God for something tangible, but I need enough to sustain my family and to take care of my children and to take care of my grandchildren. I need you to lift up that hand by faith like you believe it's coming back. I need you to open up your mouth like you are convinced you're going to get everything that you swallowed, everything that went in the wind. God said, watch me restore it back to you. I pray over every lifted hand that you will not have to chase down one dime. Every asset, every piece of property, every contract, everything, hear this, your former job owes you. God, I can't hear nobody in here. Everything that was promised you that did not come to pass, everything that was rightfully yours that you shouldn't have to fight over, God said, I am going to release it to you in the last quarter of this year. And those of you who are standing in need of a financial breakthrough, Would you give God your best shout of expectation? Hey, I said give God. Give God. I can't hear nobody. Give God your best shout of expectation. God, you were with me when I was poor. You was with me when I had nothing. You were with me when the lights were cut off. You were with me when I had to apologize to my own children. You were with me. He can trust you in poor. Can God trust you when he makes you rich? I'm going to challenge every person who has lived through a financially strapped season more than once, wave that hand at me. Every person who knows for yourself, it ain't no slogan, but I know God as Jehovah Jireh. God, I can't hear nobody. Every person that can stand on the testimony, I've never seen the righteous forsaken or his seed begging for bread. I'm asking God to bless you exponentially. I know that you've already tithed, but my grandmother, my late grandmother, Pauline Lucas Williams, said you'll never go broke helping the poor. You'll never go broke helping the poor. I'm going to challenge every person right now to sow a seed. Here it is. And I want you to sow a seed in accordance to your remembrance of your broke season, of your strap season. Those of y'all from the hood, let me hold something till next Tuesday. Y'all ain't never had one of those. Let me just hold a little piece of something till next Friday. I got you when I get paid. Y'all ain't got no real cousins. I can't hear nobody. I'm going to challenge every person who can, every person who will. I want you to get your best seed as close to 35 as you can. As close to 35 as you can. I want you to do it on PushPay, on Zelle, on Text to Give. I want you to mail it if you have to. But I want you to give a seed. God, I remember having to eat wish sandwiches. Y'all ain't saying nothing. I remember having to do my own hair and burning my neck with the curler. I can't hear nobody. I remember having to paint my own nails and having to put a towel underneath of it. I remember having to make Kool-Aid and whipping the sugar down at the bottom. I remember having to bake peanut butter and jelly and cutting the edges off. Y'all don't remember that. I want you to give at that level. Those of you who are not saved, I need you to know the greatest gift you can give God is not your money. The greatest offering you can give God is yourself. If you're here and you're not saved, over to God. You're here and you're saying, I don't have a church home that will cheer for me when I'm losing. I don't have a church that will stick with me when I got my back up against the wall. I'm telling you, New Birth is your arena. This is where God wants to prosper you. This is where he wants to flourish you. This is where he wants to develop you. And this is where he wants to make you at your highest level. You have walked with God poor. I can't wait to see you run with God rich. How many of y'all know I'm talking to you right now? I'm talking to you. I'm believing that God is going to do it. Mike McClure is coming back. Come on, y'all. Mike McClure is coming back. But real quick, before he comes, I'm so glad my sister is here. Michelle Williams, where you are? Come on, real quick. Come here. I know it. Just come. I'm so glad to have Michelle Williams from Destiny's Child with us. Real quick, while they setting up, you got a book out. Tell them the name of the book. I'm trying to help.
Oh, thank you so much, y'all. Pastor Jamal Bryant, I love you so much. Yes, I do have a new book called Checking In, about how getting real about depression saved my life and how it can save yours too. It's a topic we don't talk about much in church, but one day I'll have to come back and we'll talk about it. Thank you so much. Checkinginbook.com.
Mike McClure is gonna be medium. Come on, y'all make some.